Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Dietitian Teresa here and certified personal trainer. I'm so happy that you clicked on this video because if you are confused about hearing, oh, track your macros, and you might have tried to track your macros in the past and it just felt too overwhelming. I get it. I'm here to talk about a video going over macros 101. So everything that you need to know on your fat loss journey to get started with macros. And in today's video, I really want to talk about explaining to you what macros are, the role that macros play in energy, muscle building, and fat loss along your journey, and also giving you an example, a brief example on how to estimate your macro need. Before I even jump into the topics that I want to explain today, I want to let you in on my thought process with macros because in the past, I've had a really kind of like unhealthy relationship with food through a period of time. Now, I'm saying this because throughout life in your health and fitness journey, you adapt and you learn different things that work best for you and what are going to help you feel your best. So, macros are not for everyone, but it is the approach that I like to use with myself, but also with clients. And to say this, that macros, when I teach macros, I don't want this to be a forever thing for you. To the end of your days, you are tracking macros and you are tracking until the end. Right. So I don't want that for you, but I do truly believe that tracking macros for a period of time when it is taught in a simple manner, but also how can you use your mindfulness, your natural body's cues with macros is a very, very powerful education tool for your life and your health and fitness goals years and years down the line. At first, sure, if you are new to macros, it may seem a little bit like, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? Like, but I want you to come into this video with an open mind. Take notes. We're going over what they are and an example on how to estimate those and what the role of macros plays in your body. And it's a very beginner central video for you to understand what macros are. Macros can be a very powerful thing in a sense of it actually helped me heal my relationship with food. And it macros are kind of looked at this in a dietetics world, when you're tracking and you're weighing food out and stuff like that, it can be seen as something that's either restrictive or teaching you an unhealthy relationship with food. It can be if you let it. If you let it, you choose what you use macros for. So I wanted to really explain that to you. I want macros to be a tool, an education piece that if you dedicated to this to 6 months to a year, learned nutrition, learned what macronutrients work well for my body. Do I operate better on a higher carb, moderate fat, or higher fat, moderate carb, keeping that protein high and keeping that sufficient for your body, but knowing what fuel feels good in my body. And how we understand that is having the data to support it. And then eventually, once you learn that and you are feeling confident in your skin, you're feeling confident in your clothes and reaching your goals, feeling great, then you can incorporate more of those intuitive skills. And you're not going to have to weigh and measure everything for the rest of your life. You won't. It's just learning at this point. So I wanted to explain that and make sure you understood where I'm coming from here. A very positive light, a very positive place with these macros. And again, you choose how you utilize this tool in your life. And for me, it really empowered me. It made me strong. Healed my relationship with food, got my period back. It did a lot for me. So I know it can be taught in ways that can be sustainable for you and teach you very reasonable approaches to nutrition and how to fuel your body well. With all that being said, now I'm going to hop into the main topic. So first we're going to cover what are macros. So when I say macros, macros is a short little term for macronutrients. And in the nutrition world, we have proteins, carbs, and fats that are are macronutrients. Now you can count water in there because we do need that hydration. Water plays a huge role in our body system. For today's video, we're going to focus protein, carbs, and fats. And those are the building blocks of your diet. So these macros, they provide energy in the form of calories and support various functions in your body. So for each macronutrient or each macro, each has a different caloric value. So a protein is 4 calories per gram of protein. Carbs are 4 calories per gram of protein. Then we get to fats, which are 9 calories per grams of protein. Now, I want to touch on this point here is in the low-fat diet era, when that came about and people were losing weight and the thinness was the ideal look in that time years ago, the thing they looked at was, oh, fats have 9 calories per gram, so I'm just going to cut the fat because there's more calories per gram of fat, so fat must make me fat. Not the case. Not the case, because when it comes down to science, an overconsumption of any of these macronutrients, of even the healthiest food, you can still gain weight and you can still see inflammation from that. Even with protein, we can overeat protein, we can overeat carbs, we can overeat fat, we can overeat fiber, we can overeat vegetables. But with macros, and what we're going to get into talking about the role of each macro next, is that they each have such crucial functions for our body that learning how to incorporate each of those in a strategic manner and not going in an approach of cut this, cut that is a very, very useful tool for you. Now moving into the role of each macro. First, we're going to start with protein because I am a protein girly that I love to start here. If you are not eating adequate amounts of protein for your body, we need to start there. Now, what protein does in our body when we consume it, protein helps to build and repair muscle tissue that has been broken down in workouts, supports your hair, skin, and nail growth. Protein also helps keep you full and satisfied throughout your day and at meal to meal. So that's why I say, and if you've watched my other videos, try aiming for 30 to 40 grams of protein or 4 to 5 ounces of protein at each of your meals. Keep you full, keep you satisfied, support that muscle building aspect, and even in your fat loss journey. Now, some examples of proteins. I love to promote higher quality animal sources of protein. I'm not so much a plant-based protein person that pushes that on you. Sure, you can have it and sure it can count, but I'm thinking more like chicken, beef, eggs, steak, fish, seafood, Greek yogurt, and those types of things that are complete sources of protein to support your body. Now, what protein's role in fat loss and muscle building is that it helps preserve muscle when you're in a calorie deficit. So with fat loss, you are in a slight calorie deficit to then therefore help your body lose fat. But when we keep the protein up and sufficient, it is burning more at rest because it takes more fuel to burn to digest protein, and that's where that comes from. It also helps to build new muscle during strength training. So we don't build muscle during the workout. We build muscle in the kitchen. We break down the muscle in a workout. You're breaking and releasing those muscle fibers, and so we need that protein source to support it outside in the kitchen with our nutrition. Now talking about carbohydrates, right? So what do carbs do for our bodies? And they don't just make you gain weight. That's not what they're there for. Carbs provide quick energy for your body and your brain. It is our body's main fuel source of energy. It is also used to fuel your workouts. So any post-workout nutrition, if you're doing high intensity stuff, we want to go for more simple carbs, and then we have the complex carbs, but that's another topic for another video. Some examples of carbohydrate sources are fruits, vegetables have carbs, rice, oats, pasta, potatoes, breads. I love a good sourdough bread. The role that carbs play in fat loss is that they are so important for energy during your workouts, and also help your body recover and prevent muscle breakdown. So we don't just say all protein everything. We have to have the carbs in there because carbs and protein work together to then therefore help repair the muscle you've broken down in your body. So going keto or anything like that in your fat loss journey, unless it's for a medically supervised reason, it's not what we're about. And then I move into the fats portion. So fats support your hormone production. And I'm really cautious of this too, is like in a fat loss journey when we're playing around with your fat intake. If you notice changes in your PMS symptoms or like your period length or cycle, if it's shorter or lighter, then we're like, okay, probably need to look at the fats and carb ratio, but fats support your like estrogen, progesterone, fertility hormones, and they also help absorb fat soluble vitamins. So, like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K, those are fat soluble vitamins. So, when we eat those vitamins, like when we're eating vegetables and fruits, or if you eat a salad, put a low fat dressing on it, you're really not getting the nutrient, vitamin, mineral benefit of that salad. Choosing just like a regular fat dressing is actually a better go-to, or adding fat some way, somehow. Fats also provide that long-lasting energy. So when we think about in fat loss, when we are going from meal to meal, we also want to support the protein and carbs with enough fat at that meal to support, not having highs and lows throughout the day with blood sugars, that kind of thing. Because fats take a longer time to digest and break down in the stomach. So that's why if you have a higher fat meal, you might be like, oh, I feel full for so long. Some examples of fats are like avocado, olive oil, avocado oil, butter, ghee, nuts and seeds, fatty fish, but also you have like the animal fats from the like beef tallow and fats from like a ground beef, chicken thighs, things like that. The role of fat in fat loss and muscle building is it helps to maintain healthy hormone levels that are essential for fat loss and muscle growth. Quick example here. Now, if you had cut your fats really low as an active woman working, busy career woman, and you're working out, plus you're in a calorie deficit, plus, and maybe your sleep is good and stress management is good, but if your fats are too low, your hormones and like that cortisol can really be impacted by a really low fat diet for a long period of time. And that's where it's like, okay, if your hormones aren't in balance, then your body's likely not going to let go of the fat that's on your body that you're striving for. So that's a little example there. That part essentially is just explaining to you what does each macro do in your body, and how does it break down, and how does your body utilize it. Now that you know that and what are macros, I want to go into an example of how you could estimate your macro needs. This isn't going to be super in depth. This is very broad in general, just to help you grasp the concept of how do you even like know how many macros to consume? The first step would be to determine your calorie needs. And that is where, when I determine calorie needs, I'm taking into account what's your total daily energy expenditure. Now, that is where I'm taking your basal metabolic rate, your activity levels, and that thermic effect of food, putting all those together, and then calculating what would be good for your body and what it's burning on a daily basis to be in that slight deficit. There is an online calculator just to make it simple for you right now that I found that is pretty similar. I usually use like what's called the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation to get your baseline energy needs. And then from there, when you get that total amount of calories, usually anywhere from 250 to 500 calories is a big enough deficit for you to be in for that fat loss. But again, ladies, if you're coming from a long period of time of under fueling your body, once you figure out what do you should you actually be consuming? So like let's say if you find out I should actually be consuming 2,200 calories a day to maintain right now, but I'm only eating 1,400. Then we need to do a little bit more work on the back end before going into a fat loss phase. But I'm talking to the woman that, yeah, you're eating a sufficient amount. You just want to try it out. Go in a slight deficit. This isn't tailored to anybody specifically, but start with just like a 200 calorie deficit from that number, that TDEE, and then go from there. Now we have to go into how do we break down your calories for protein. Usually I recommend is like anywhere from zero point 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of goal body weight. Let's say you are a 150-pound person and you want to lose like 15 pounds. 135 is your goal. So I would say, okay, let's go for 135, like 135 to 140 grams of protein for that starting point and see how that feels. And then we adjust as we go. Carbs should make up anywhere from 40 to 50% of your total calories. Now, when I usually do this, back to the protein portion, I like to say if we can get your total like protein intake 30% of your daily of your total calories that you should need to be in a slight deficit for a fat loss journey, that's where we start. Carbs about 40%, fats 30%. So it's a 30, 40, 30% breakdown. Okay, so let me take you through an example of this. If somebody needs a 2,000 calorie goal, needs to meet a 2,000 calorie goal every day for their fat loss journey, I would take, okay, 30% times 2,000 is 600 calories. Remember, back in the beginning of the video, there are 4 calories per gram of protein. So I would take that 600, divide that by 4, and then I would get 150. So it'd be about 150 grams of protein. When I move to fats, it would be 30% of your intake. So percent of 2,000 is 600 calories again, but we have to divide. Now, remember 9 calories per gram of fat. Now we have to divide 600 calories, divide that by 9 calories to get about 66 grams of fat. And then for carbs, we're wanting to start at 40% of that 2,000 intake. So 40% of 2,000 is 800. And if we were to take, there's 4 calories per gram of carb, we take 800 calories divided by the 4 calories per gram, that'd be about 200 grams. So that's how I figure it out at first. And it's not like this is it, this is the magic number. We have to try it and see if it works. That's why being adaptable in this process and learning your macros is such a crucial thing. Hopefully that didn't confuse you too much and just kind of made sense. How does the breakdown work? Usually a 30, 40, 30 split, 30 protein, 40% carbs, 30% fats of that total daily energy expenditure calorie recommendation you should be eating. Now, how do you track these macros? So you know kind of how to estimate your macro needs. I like using Chronometer for it. It's just like MyFitnessPal, or there's like Macros First and those apps like that. But really, whatever works best for you. I use Chronometer. I like it. And tracking is not about perfection, but it's understanding the fuel you are putting into your body and how it makes you feel, recover, and one step closer to your overall fat loss goals. The tips for that I have for you to successfully track in the beginning is, planning your meals around a protein source and then balancing your plate with that protein source, a carb source, and then some healthy fats in there. And if you haven't watched my other videos, I talk about how to build a balanced plate by volumizing with some more fiber. And you'll understand that if you go watch that video. As you go on, I do touch points with clients. So if every week we go over, okay, what was your macro average? What's the progress been? How's your weight changing? But then we look at in like 4 week chunks, 4 to 6 week chunks, what's that progress body composition wise, and then measurement wise, and progress photo wise. So that's where you can start with tracking your macros. Don't be perfect, just be consistent and be honest with yourself in the beginning too. Because the more data you have, we can't track what we don't measure. So if you don't know what you're doing in the beginning of your fat loss journey, then you don't know what you're intaking or anything. How do we have data to say, okay, you are already doing this, so we need to change this to then therefore get this result. So just thinking of that in that context. So I've been talking for a while, so I'm going to wrap this up. Now, this video explained what macros are, what their roles are in your body, and how you can estimate them for yourself, and how macros help with fat loss and muscle building. Now, I encourage you, start simple. Just, download the Chronometer app, and then, what you do is you just take, okay, I'm going to track my macros for a week. Don't change anything, just track your macros for a week on a daily basis. And at the end of the week, look at what your intake is and see where that is in comparison to that total daily energy expenditure that you should be at, which again, the link for that total daily energy expenditure calculation is down below that you can use just to get you started. Okay. Any comments, any questions, any goals, anything like that, leave those in the comments below. And I have a Mastering Macros for Fat Loss handout that can help get you started on your journey to learning more about macros. So I hope you like this video. Take what you need from it, leave what you don't, and stay strong, stay nourished, and I'll just see you in the next one.